Hello everyone and welcome to another Atomic Mass Transmissions Live. I'm Director of Product Development Will Schick, and today we're going to be painting one Grand Inquisitor from Star Wars Shatterpoint. I've already done some of the prep work. We're going to be working with oils again today because they're just fun to work on, the Star Wars Shatterpoint minis with oils, and it's something I've been having fun with on the stream. So I think we keep that going. We're going to paint a lot of black, but a lot of chromatic black using the oils and the properties therein. So with that, let's hop off my camera and get on the camera that's important, which is, of course, this man here. So you'll see that I've already done the prep work, so I laid down my initial foundations, and I've already used my makeup sponges, as you can tell from these little gross makeup sponges here, to wipe away most of my foundational layer into my basic premise. Ian's coming right in here, so I'm assuming everything's broken and nothing's working, but that's all right. We'll be fine.
There he is.
There he is. Look at him. Look at him. He's so lovely. So, we're just going to mix up a nice little highlight color here. And we're going to dive in and start blocking things out. I feel like this table got shorter. Did this table get shorter? Or did I grow? There's no way I grew. I'm not a growing boy. All right. So let's go to our black, go to our white. We need to make a gray. So we're going to make a quick gray. Like so. And then we're going to wipe some of that off. We're going to come in with our little filbert. And I'm just going to start knocking out his pantalones. What? That's how they would say it. He's the Grande Inquisitor. We've already established this, so pantalones it is. And then his under thingy. So his suit in general, we're just going to make with a gray, and we're using that foundational layer as kind of our cheat, so that our colors will mix nicely and it'll help everything just kind of like work in really well. Did I have to assemble his multiple stomachs? I don't know. Did I? Multiple stomachs? I don't think the Grand Inquisitor has multiple stomachs. So we're just really going to quickly, like working down, smack in this gray. We'll come back in and reestablish our shadows as well if we go a little bit too much. Not super concerned. If I wind up kind of mixing my colors, I can always bring those back a little later. A little fuzzy there. That's fine. Okay. Let's go ahead and go back to our white. I'm just going to mix this in and lay down some more highlight. If there's one thing that's, fun about the Shatterpoint style and aesthetic, it's the fact that we really get to go crazy with the capes, because everyone's got there's always dramatic wind. Block that in a little bit like that. Hit those areas here. And I'm not really worried if it's too, like if my colors are a little blocky, or you can see my blue tack's really strong today. It's because I replaced the blue tack on the gimbal. Because I can always block those back out as well. So one of the great things with oils, if you've watched the ones before, is that you get a long working time with them. So we're going to actually have a couple days. Get rid of that fuzzy. We're going to have a couple days with this color to kind of play around and mess with it. Nah, his cape is lightsaber proof. See, those Inquisitor capes. Lightsaber retardant, like fire retardant baby wear. Otherwise, you just have a bunch of singed clothes as a Jedi or a Sith or a pseudo Sith, which I guess is what these guys are. Stick with me, Anne. You know it's true.
I do.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Check those up. I'm going to go pretty high on this because I can blend that back out. And I really want to get those highlights knocked in. Do. Come over to the gloves here. And so this is just kind of like a sketch phase, really. I can go pretty wild with this stuff. And I want to make sure that my paint strokes are minimal so that the color doesn't blend super strongly together. I'll get to the blending portion, but that's going to be a little later, ideally. So, again, I'm just kind of knocking out areas here and building up those highlights, and then we'll go back through and we'll kind of clean everything up and bring things back down, but we definitely want to get that gray undersuit kind of blocked out. And I'm pretty happy with that, and then we'll move on to the cloak and the boots and all that good stuff. I'm going to use a slightly different color for that. So for the cloak, I'm going to go with more of a little bit of a blue-gray. So I'm going to play with a lot of chromatic blacks. And this is probably one of the biggest, Which head did I choose and why? I chose the animated head. And because that's the one I like. So, easy question. But when you're messing, around with Star Wars stuff, you're going to have a lot of characters that are going to have, multiple shades of the same color. So obviously our Inquisitor boy here, Grand Inquisitor, he wears black and more black and then some gray. And the way that we're going to make that distinct and kind of interesting and unique is we're going to have our, classic kind of neutral gray on the undersuit. We're going to have a more blue-black on the cloak itself. And then for the armor, the ideal is we're going to come in with some yellows and kind of make more of a brilliant yellow pale kind of color for the armor. And that will ideally give the eye a lot of really good visual interest and differentiation. And even though, by the time we shade everything back down and we kind of finish the overall look, we're still going to wind up with everything looking black. Those different tones of black are going to play well with each other, and they're going to add kind of that panache, that visual appeal that's going to make the miniature more interesting and more exciting to look at, even if, on quick inspection, it's like, oh yeah, he's got a lot of black going on. We will wind up with those different tones that really please the brain, even the subconscious brain. So that's going to be our goal. But right now you'll see that my highlights are really venturing into the really bright blues, and he looks more blue-gray than he does anything else. And that's okay, because we just kind of knock things back in. And again, this is the fun of oils, is that we're going to have a lot of working time, and we're going to be able to kind of mess around. And we can play back and forth with our shadows and our highlights. So it's very easy to kind of blend back in darker shades and bring our highlights back up. This is not, working with oils, I found to be really enjoyable and fun, and I think they have a lot of strengths over working with just acrylics in many ways, but they are not necessarily as fast. I'm sure once you learn them and you become very proficient at what they do, you can kind of speed paint, quote unquote, with them. But I kind of feel like that's missing the point. Like if you just want speed, personally, I think you're better off going with acrylics and using glazes and washes and all of the good stuff that come along with acrylics, because there are many benefits to acrylics. But if you want to take your time and really explore color theory and mess around with the different options and blends and all that stuff, it's very nice. So as far as like enjoying oils more than acrylics, I've enjoyed the learning process a lot. That has come with oils and kind of the freedom and flexibility they give me for stuff, but I haven't like completely been won over, right? There's absolutely benefits to each, and I found that for the most part, I go back and forth quite a bit depending on what I'm painting. So for instance, I just finished some other Shatterpoint miniatures for game streams, future game streams. And on that squad, I used acrylics and I used the airbrush and all that good stuff. So it's a lot like cooking in a way where I'm just expanding my breadth of like skills and tools and options. And that's allowing me to really pick and choose what I want to do. And sometimes it's just based on mood. Like every once in a while I say, hey, this would be really fun to do with oils, so let's give this a try with oils. Sometimes I look at something and I say, I can do this really quick with the airbrush, or this is good airbrush practice, because I'm still not particularly great with the airbrush. All my Shatterpoint terrain that's been on the streams, I did that with the airbrush, and did a couple other things with the airbrush that have worked out pretty well and been pretty happy with. So, all right. So our armor here is getting really bright and yellow, but that's all right, because again, we're going to come back in and reestablish all of our shadows and everything. But hopefully you can see, especially at this stage. Whoa, I don't know what your question was. Federal Chipmunk one, sorry, it's gone. But hopefully you can see, especially at this bright stage, how we have these different chromatics. So we've got a lot of yellow in the armor, which will hopefully make it look like light's reflecting off of it. We have our neutral gray here, and we have our blue gray on the cloak. And so we're going to use all of these different elements as we reestablish back in our shadows. To really kind of bring it all back into the color that we want. So we're just going to grab our black and we're going to just come in and start blocking out where we want those darks to reappear. And then once we've done this part, we'll just take our clean dry blending brush. We'll start blending those colors in. So again, this part can be pretty sloppy. It's more like a sketch than anything else, because we're just going to blend those paints directly onto the mini itself. And we'll play back and forth and see how far we get, all of that good stuff. But so just kind of figuring out where I want to reestablish some of those shadows and where some things got lost. And we can, of course, mix up some more stuff and everything. Yeah, I mean, I think, what have we shown off for the other games? There's been a lot of info. For stuff, and there's some surprises still coming for everything. We've got mini extravaganza that's going to be coming up in the fall. So, we're very much in the Shatterpoint just released excitement mode. Lots of good stuff there. but we've got some stuff. I don't want to spoil anything, but I can confidently tell you that there's some real cool things a coming. Some big announcements, all that good stuff. Intense staring at Chick through the screen. Maybe you should just get back to work, Summer, since you don't even want to come here anymore. Yeah, I said it. I'll say it again. I'm just gonna knock in colors there, colors right here. Okay. Let's go ahead, drop that brush, grab a blending brush, and just see how things kind of blend out and where we want to go darker and where we want to go lighter. So I think we need some more black for the cape for sure, but that's all right. Here's kind of the magic or the fun of oils in this way, is that you're just going to start working those colors right on the mini itself, and you can kind of push and pull as much as you'd like. So we'll get this a little darker. And then any brush strokes that are left, we can go back through and we can kind of scumble out at our next step. So even if you're like, oh, that's kind of chunky and gross, we're not quite at the end of it. So multiple steps that you can kind of work through to make everything come together properly and look pretty good. Go in, I'm going to take some more dark. Just gonna wipe that out. And then I might come back to a little bit of our light. Play with that. Blend those out. Clean off my brush. How did I just start discovering oil as a medium? What made me start working about it? Well, I hear a lot of like really smart people and artists out there using oils, talking about oils. The way I got into it was through kind of exploring oil washes. And so that was kind of my soft intro, is doing oil washing as a way to kind of finish or enhance my acrylic miniatures painting. Oil washes are amazing because, and I've done a few of them on the stream before, kind of back when I was first getting acquainted with the process and everything, but they're so awesome because you have so much control over the mixing of them and how much they actually stay on the mini, because you can use the mineral spirits to pull them off, so you can actually erase them almost completely. You can create really good pin washes that just flow completely into the crevices, and they do it very, very easily as well. So, you know, in the end, like the kind of slow burn experience was, hey, check this out. This process works really well. Well, now I have the oils, and I know that people paint with them. So, what would that look like? And it was a few years before I got really brave and decided to just jump in and try it. And I'm still very much learning and refining, you know, my skills and everything, and that's to be expected, I think. I mean, honestly, like, you shouldn't just come in and kind of expect to master something. The Shatterpoint minis was a really great catalyst for it, though, because they offered something that was a little different, a little bit of a bigger canvas to mess with, and so that made it more comfortable than, say, a Crisis Protocol mini, or definitely a Legion mini, especially because in Legion you have to paint typically units. So, you know, doing a new process like an oil over an entire unit was a little terrifying, honestly, with having no experience with it. I've seen some amazing stuff that folks have done who paint with oils on those units, as I've like watched and tried to learn and figure everything out, but it really did come down to a whole, like, just right time, right place, kind of the chance to do some stuff in an interesting manner. Clean that off. I want to go back to this one, I think. Grab a little bit of that. Blend that back in. Come in a little bit more. Blend that back in. So as it dries, you know, oil paints, because of the linseed oil in them, they are very, very glossy to start. But as it dries, it absolutely mattes down. And then, of course, once it's completely dry, you can do exactly the same thing you would do with say, acrylics, and you can hit them with an artist sealant. So you can hit them with a dull coat if you want to bring the gloss really far down. You can use a satin varnish if you want to bring the gloss back up. You know, it's completely within your control. So you can finish them in the exact same way that you would anything else. Lost my line that I liked. That's okay. Just bring it back. Tap that away. Tap that away. Come here. But yes, I think one of the, you know, learning challenges with them in general is kind of understanding how they go on the mini versus how they finish on the mini. And it is definitely different, you know. The colors that you get as they dry are a little bit different than when they go on, so you have to be brave when it comes to how bright some of the things look, because they do kind of start to dull as they dry. And actually, I can show you the difference in their sheen. So here's the Luminara we did in oils a couple weeks ago, 3 weeks, 4 weeks ago now. So she's completely dry. And you can see that, yeah, she's got a little bit of a shine to her still. So it's a strong satin finish, but it's nowhere near kind of the glossiness of the wet oils, right? So it does tone down as things go, and you can take that even further with a dull coat or anything like that as well. So. All right. The train can work. Of course, train's a pretty big part. I think, the ones that I found the best to start with are characters with a lot of nice flowy cloth. So Anakin Skywalker from the core set would be one of the ones that I would say would be a great starting point for folks who wanted to give it a try, because he's got the nice tunic, and the cloth is really, really easy and forgiving. Because the first ones that I painted with oils were Obi-Wan and Darth Vader from the dual pack, because I had some initial test shots of them lying around, and I was like, well, if I screw these up, it's not a big deal, because they were just there. So they were good practice canvases that I didn't have to worry about, and they were really nice. So Obi-Wan, because he's, again, much like Anakin, he's a lot of cloth and everything. He was really good to practice the different blendings on the flowy fabrics, and then Vader being pure black, but a lot of chromatic blacks, gave me the opportunity to kind of mess around with how you could blend different colors of oil on different things. And so it was really nice. It was a really nice kind of way to start and build up my confidence. And when I kind of got done and I looked at them and I was like, I don't know if these are great. Or when I made mistakes, which I did quite a bit, I could just go back in and, another one of the really great things about oils is you can just go in and wipe it all off and start again. So that was really excellent confidence builder as well, because I knew that nothing was really permanent unless I left it alone for a couple of days. So anything I didn't like, I could just go in and clean up and wipe away. Even if I kind of got done with this and I was like, I don't really think this is working, and it's a complete disaster that I can't save, I can just go in and take my makeup sponges and stuff and very quickly wipe it all down and start again. Yeah, I'm not a huge non-metallic metal person. It's not a skill that I've really developed. I've always preferred painting true metallics. And so with that being the case, I do a combination of oils and acrylics, even on the stuff that I have done in oils, where I'll just go back in after it's dry and do my traditional metallics. I also do that mostly with the flesh tones, because I'm not 100% confident on painting skin tones yet with oils. Not that it's necessarily hard, but there's just a lot of fine brush control and stuff that I don't quite feel like I have down as of yet. So I've done a couple of faces in oils, but then what I'll do is after it's dried, I have yet to really like an effect that I've done where I've been like, I did great on this, I'll go back in and use a flesh wash over top of it, and then kind of pick out details with acrylic paints that I know work well for the results that I want. So again, there's so much flexibility when it comes to all this stuff, and the fact that you can mix the different mediums if you have time and patience, right? Again, this is not at all the technique that you want to use if you've got an event the next day and you need the thing ready, right? If you're looking to get something painted up quick for a next day event, you should go with acrylics, because oils they're not going to be ready. Even if you use a lot of thinners and do some of the more like speed painty oil styles, they're just not. It's not a fast process. They don't have fast drying times and all that good stuff. They just take a little while. So you want to keep that in mind, you know. But this is why having just tools in the toolbox is such a great thing. Errant hair there. Messed everything up. That's all right. Let's grab you. Grab you. Just gonna block that in. Kind of build in a little bit of those specular highlights. Make that armor feel like it's getting that light hit that we want. Before you can add the acrylics, you need the oils to be completely dry. So, you know, that's 5-ish days minimum. Usually, depending on how, it depends on, you know, what kind of oil paints you're using, how much thinner you're using with them, all that stuff. But in my experience, you know, I like to give my oil painted stuff a full week. Before sealing them. And then once they're sealed, they're basically ready to go, you know. I'm sure that's probably longer overall than they would need. Because I've checked them at like 4 days, 5 days, and they felt pretty dry. But I'm not in any huge rush. So I'm more than happy to just give them the extra time. And then, you know, the other cool thing is that it's not just you go back and can redo them with acrylics. You can also go back and, you know, fix them up with more oils. So you can do oil washes and the like if that's something that you feel like you want to go back and do. So, you know, you can do pin washes. You can do pin washes while it's still wet. You just have to be a little careful with it. And we're probably going to do some of that today. I need to clean this brush really quick and then dry it off really, really good. This scumbling brush is getting a little dirty. So all of those things are things that you can do as well. So again, a lot of really good opportunity and options for exploration, should you want to do that. And so I don't know if this comes through super great on the camera that we have, but just kind of doing some scumbling now to blend in the brush strokes and kind of smooth out everything. And this is my favorite part, because as you scumble everything together, we got a Dallas Gimp. He's checking something out in the other room. Be very quiet not to scare him. And he's gone. He appears and he's gone. I'll go back through and darken that part up again. A little bit of that. Come down. A little bit of that. Come down. Clean off my scumbling brush again. How's the smell? I don't think they're bad. I don't know. What do you think, Ann? Like, to me, the oils don't have any odor. The odorless paint thinner has a little bit of odor, but I don't, I don't mind it too much. I don't think like it's overpowering or anything.
I don't have a sense of smell.
Oh, well, there you go. So you just be like Ann and don't have a sense of smell and you're safe. But yeah, no, like they don't have a powerful, I don't find them to have a powerful scent. At least not the ones that I use. So no issues there. For me, for sure. But yeah, they're absolutely, they're just another great tool for the tool belt. Even if you're only doing oil washes with them. All those folks out there who are like, how do you paint clones and how do you do white armor? Let me tell you, if you can just spray, if you have an airbrush or even just a regular brush, you can do it with too. You can do white armor so quickly and so effectively, it's fantastic because all you have to do is establish your whites and then make a quick oil wash, slather it over everything, but then unlike contrast painting styles or, using a heavy wash, you then just take your makeup sponges or your Q-tips or whatever, and you can completely pull off any of the top layer stain that you want, and so you get this super nice tinting. And I think on our channel still, I showed the process with some Legion clones, some Phase 2 clones that I did. And that was like one of my first streams about what I'd been playing with when it came to oil washes and stuff. And it's still a process that I use on my clones to this day. And white in general, it works so well. So well. And I love the effect that it gives. It has this really cool kind of finish to it that I just find makes a really compelling white, It's got that artist quality kind of finish when it dries, and it's just, it's so nice. So definitely worth it if you're going to be painting a lot of whites or clones, and it works on everything. A great way to do natural or good-looking skin tones is you do your skin like normal, and then once it's all done, you take magenta and you apply an oil wash of magenta, and then you clean it all up. And that magenta oil wash gives the skin this nice, blood hue. It gives it that warmth that all skin has. And it just looks phenomenal. It just takes it to the next level. And it's so easy and quick. It's wonderful. It's wonderful. So I really love it. Oh, we didn't do the back of his pants. Bad us. It's okay. We'll get there later. I'm not worried about the back of his pants right now. So let's go ahead and do a really quick pin wash while I've got this liner brush out. We'll see if we can't establish some of these shadows in his little collar. So, good pin wash, you just touch and it'll run right in there. And if you don't like where it goes, you can obviously just clean it up. It's really easy. But you can do it, you know, like let's say we want these buttons to stand out because we're happy with where that belt is. We're just going to touch it and you see it run right in there, you know, in the belt there. Maybe we just want to reestablish the line across his little armor plate. So we can touch that way. Go over here and touch. Now the big trick when you're doing it this way, as opposed to kind of blending it out, is that paint thinner. You can't blend out your mistakes right away. So you got to wait for the paint thinner to kind of dry up a little bit. But again, it's still not permanent. So you don't have to freak out. It's not like a traditional wash. You'll still have your time and your ability to fix it. But if you go a little too early, that paint thinner is obviously going to make the oil paints underneath want to come up too. So kind of similar to how when you're working with like speed paints or heavy washes or whatever, you have a certain amount of time to fix them before they kind of start to tear and do their thing. Same idea here, except for the difference being that whereas with acrylic kind of contrasts or washes, you have to do them before they start to dry. In this case, it's the opposite, where you need to kind of let it dry a little bit before you go back in and start fixing it. So it's the reverse issue. But as long as your pin wash is sufficiently diluted properly, you should just have to be able to touch, and the capillary action will just take care of it for you. Easy peasy. And you just touch wherever you want it to flow, and you know, realistically it'll just flow right in there like that. And then if it goes a little bit over or whatever, you just come back in and fix it once that stuff has had a moment to dry, and blend it back out just like your normal oils. So a lot of control over it. All right. Okie dokie. Let's work on our big dome here. So a little bit of purple. And a bunch of white, which I'm kind of out of. There we go. And we will grab this little brush here, because why not? Purple, blue. Just kind of trying to make that nice highlight gray, but I don't want pure white because his skin is not pure white. Just going to add a little bit of violet to it. It's pretty good, I think. And then let's grab this one. Why not? Load up the brush. Just come in. Pull that down. Come off the brush, come back in. Pull that down. Down. And then grab a little bit more white. Just take some pure white this time with whatever paint's on the brush, because remember, the more you work over an area, the more the color is going to contaminate your brush, which means that it's just going to blend together. Pull that down. Just work top to bottom. And then you'll see where I got paint everywhere because I wasn't super careful. Just grab my brush and blend it right back out, and then it's gone. And that's the other beauty of oils. So you can pretty quickly and easily fix any mistake you make, especially when it comes to slopping color on an area that you don't want the color on. Because a little bit of blending and you can blend it right out. All right. So there's that. About 9 minutes left, eh? So I'm just gonna kind of pull these colors together. So again, just using a little scumbling just to remove those brush strokes, clean things up. Pull those together. Just a little bit more white. There. Beautiful. All right, I'm pretty happy with that. So I'll just kind of, again, looking for where I want those brush strokes to get a little scumbled out. There. Perfect, perfect. And then maybe we'll just come back in here and say, oh, our wash got a little strong here, and it got a little strong here. So let's just smooth those things back out. And again, you can kind of see how that blending process, it's just back and forth, and you're going to work those areas until you're happy with them, but you have so much time to work those areas that, you know, it's very easy to go too far. It's pretty difficult not to go far enough, honestly, because you can just keep going back and refining your process and refining your process. And smoothing out whatever's there and blending your colors until you're completely happy with your final results. But I think in this last little bit of time we have left, even though I would probably keep going for another hour or so. Easy. Let's just really quick do the lightsaber. So we'll get the red saber on this boy. That'll be good enough for today. I personally, I know everyone's like red saber, but I like orange as the starting point for the sabers, because I feel like if you look at them in the videos and stuff, they're way more orange than they are anything else. This won't work. Let's just grab this. Let's clean that off. And might have to actually start a little bit of white. So we've got some of our cloak on there. Ooh, it's so chunky. Nice. That's all right. We'll fix that here in a second. Come here, rando hair. The studio is just full of hair. It's like Michael Plummer lets his crazy cats in the office all the time. Has no concern for the destruction that their hair wreaks everywhere. All right. There we go. And we'll give us a nice foundation at least to start from. And then grab a little bit of that, a little bit of this. Teeniest bit of thinner, because thin paints will stick to thick paints. Smoosh that in there. Come over here. Smoosh that in there. Then if we get some orange on there, oh no, what do we do? Oh, right. And this blending property of oils also means that, you know, if you're really into the OSL effects, you can do some really phenomenal OSL effects really simply with oils, actually, because of how the paints interact with each other and how they work out and everything. It's pretty cool. Now we'll grab some red. So I like to start with orange, but you gotta get some red in there. You gotta get some nice potent color. And then we're just gonna kind of mix those two together to create our saber effect. Remember, the more you paint with it, the more it's going to mix on the brush, so you might have to go clean the brush off to reestablish that color. Just a little bit of that. Ooh, too much of that. That's okay. And then you can just go back and forth and start. Why oils? Man, you got to watch the whole video. You can't come in the last 2 minutes and ask that question. Why oils? They're super fun to paint with. They're definitely a different experience from just what they offer. They offer a lot of freedom and flexibility to explore different techniques and different colors. They blend right on the mini, which makes for a different kind of experience and overall different vibe. They definitely have a different finish. I think that they look a little more artsy in their final like dried form than acrylics ever do. So it's kind of neat in that way if you want something that's a bit more unique. But overall, I think they're just a fantastic additional tool in the toolbox. They do certain things way better than acrylics. They do certain things a little more challenging than acrylics. But at the end of the day, knowing how to paint with them, being able to just do something that's fun and different, to me is totally worth it. And I think Shatterpoint minis especially have a lot of attributes that make exploring them with oils enjoyable and fun. And it's a great kind of canvas to learn off of. I'm just going to pull in some yellow here just to kind of like brighten things up. The top of that saber is a little dark because we had a lot of black on it and I'm going really fast, but it's okay. I can always go back and bring it back up later. So that's why oils. Because why not oils, right? Why limit yourself? If something seems like it'd be fun and exciting to do, then you should give it a try. And if nothing else, some of the techniques and like thought process that go into oils, no, it's all right, I'll fix that later, can absolutely come into play with your acrylics and make that process better and more enjoyable and fun and everything else. So well worth the attempt, I think. And is very fun to do.
You got a big raid, shit.
I got a big raid? My gosh. Well, welcome, raiding party. Please feel free to help yourself to our gold and mead halls and other goods. Because I assume that's why you're here. Any good raid is a pillaging raid, right? Plus, I figure I can use the cover of this raid to now, do some of the facial details with what little time we have left. No! Again, this is one of those areas where like maybe it would have been a disaster, but now it's not, because we just kind of like blend it all in. Blend it all in. So, knock that stuff in. Get it on this side. And then we could go back to our skin color if we wanted to kind of like address that spot where we messed up a little bit with the red. It's a little darker now. Just blend it all out. Blend it all out. I'll also say we want to give him some evil yellow eyes, because why not? Why not? All right, well, we are 3 minutes over, but here's where we kind of ended up after an hour of just working with the oils. So plenty of things that I still want to do with this fine Inquisitor man, but overall, you can see kind of how everything pulled together and how we took those really bright colors and we've made a black-suited, black-armored Inquisitor, but with some different color gradations that you can see and that your eye will pick up, even if you're not immediately noticing it. So we have more of a yellow on the armor. We've got the more neutral gray on the pants, and then of course we've got the blue-black on the cloak. And all those things kind of come together to make something that's visually interesting and exciting, even though it's basically monochromatic in many ways. So this guy will continue to dry and we'll work everything on. Yes, this is a pop filter behind it, just gives a nice little like background for the Mini so that the camera can focus a bit better. So still some things to do, like the buttons and all that stuff. I might just do those in acrylic just to finish them up. That might be easier. And then of course the saber hilt itself. Maybe I would go back and do that with acrylics. Maybe I would just do it with oils. But I've got some days to play with this fella. So with that, thank you so much for joining me. Be sure to tune in tomorrow for Dallas Kemp. He's going to be back 1 p.m. Pacific. He's going to be painting explosions. All the explosions. So if you want to know how to paint explosion effects, or let's say jetpack fumes, or wash, or all that stuff, show up tomorrow. He's going to be going through a bunch of different processes to do that. Then, of course, you can come back next week. We're going to be doing more hobby and painting stuff Tuesday and Wednesday at 1 p.m. Pacific. Till next time, I've been Will, you've been great, and we'll see you on the next one. Goodbye.